Oh no, today's topic is quite hard and embarrassing. Today I'll be talking about shame. So first I thought I should come like this so you wouldn't know it's me. But then that would kill the purpose of this conversation, which is talking openly about shame. Yes, I know, fun topic. So I could choose to talk about recipes for lemon muffins, how to do the hairdo for your next wedding. But no, I chose shame. I know I have a weird taste. So come with me today and let's go through shame and its impact on life and also in entrepreneurship. Hi, I'm Filipa, an author and entrepreneur, and I'm here to talk about the understories, the stories beneath the story, the backstage of life where you find imperfections, decisions, indecisions, but also lots of opportunities. And as usual, I'm going to have a very simple structure on this episode. I'll start by telling you a real story, a personal story. Then I'll relate a problem to it, and I'll give you solutions based on books. So here we go. Today's topic is quite nice. It's shame. I know, like I told you before, it's uncomfortable, it's raw, but it's necessary. And also because, shame is universal. Let me tell you my story regarding shame. I always wanted to publish a book, my own book, and I decided to do it. So I wrote this book, I did all the things related to publishing it, I did self publishing. And then the day came. I had a room full of people, friends, family, everybody looking at me. They were so proud. I was proud too. And I did my speech, and people were laughing and clapping and hugging me, and I was signing books, and I felt so incredible that day. The next day, I decided I needed to enjoy that moment more, to relive what I had experienced the day before. And so I sat down on my couch, prepared myself a lovely tea, and opened my book. On the first page, I found a typo. And I felt like this is wrong. I was sure I had corrected this. And so I kind of understood that I was having just a nightmare or just a moment of craziness because I was still nervous from the previous day. I don't know. I made that up. I opened the second page and there was something else there, something wrong. There was a mistake. And then the vertigo started. There was something really wrong with my book and I could not control it. It was there, printed. And I sold quite a lot of books on that day. So I was panicking big time. I was, running around the house, understanding what had happened, and that doesn't matter. The fact is, I realized I had published the wrong version of my book. I know, something I had worked so hard for, something I had dreamed about my whole life, and I do it wrong. I published the wrong version of my book for everybody to see. And people bought it, and I signed it. So I couldn't run away from it. I think you can imagine the level of shame I felt on that moment. I really felt I was unworthy, I was ridiculous, and that I shouldn't have just, published a book. I should have just kept quiet and proceed with my normal life, not going into these adventures. So, this is my personal story. And now let's talk about the issue behind it, which is shame. First of all, shame is universal. Everybody feels it in every single culture around the world, and it has millions of years. So I guess you feel it too. It's part of being human, and as you might have noticed, being human many times sucks. So we hate shame. It's uncomfortable, and we want to just run away from it. But here's the tricky part: the more we run from it, the bigger it becomes. And so I'm going to introduce you to two books I read recently that really focus on this topic, also relating it to vulnerability. The first one, I already mentioned it on the first episode, and it's Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. This one is in Portuguese, but you can find it in English too. And it's so good that I decided to bring it again. And that is also Dare to Lead, also by Brené Brown. So Brené, just give me a hands up or a sponsorship. If you don't like reading, you can also find a documentary or a speech by Brené in Netflix. So Netflix sponsorship as well, please. So, yeah, let's go through these topics. Woo! Shame is the fear of disconnection, of not belonging, of not being worth of love, and other things like respect, credibility, whatever you want. And that connects to the story I just told you. When I published my book, My Wrong Book, I felt that people around me, my friends, my family, even the audience, would think I was ridiculous and I was not worthy of love. I thought that by doing that mistake, it would erase all my life experiences, all the things I had done well in life. And I know this doesn't sound rational, but that's exactly how I felt at that point of time. I felt I couldn't be loved. I'm sorry I get a bit emotional with this one, but that's how I felt. So I'm being honest here. When you feel shame, you feel like you don't belong because you don't deserve to be there in that room. And that can be on a personal level, professional level, any level. You just don't belong. And that isolation hurts so bad. So, yes. Now, I called myself so many names for such a long time after doing that mistake. And I cannot mention the names here because otherwise I would be just canceled. So I'll be like, beep, 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 beep. Yeah, that's what happened. Should we try it? Okay. Now you ask me, did any of my friends or family members told me I was ridiculous, that they would never forgive my mistake, that I was never going to have any successes on my personal or professional life? They didn't. Guess what? Because that would be unfair. That doesn't correspond to the truth. I did a mistake. Yes. Do I regret it? Yes. Do I feel guilty about it? Yes, of course. I was the one responsible. But that doesn't take away the value of everything I have done previously in my life and that I'm doing now. So, what is happening here is that I'm not being empathetic towards myself, whereas others are being empathetic towards me. And that makes sense. You would never say the things I told myself to anybody, to any friends, even on a more professional level. You would never um, do that type of aggression to anyone. Now, let's connect all of these to entrepreneurship. When you are an entrepreneur, you risk failing so many times. You really have to master the art of going out there knowing that most likely you'll be doing things that are wrong. Let's face it, failing sucks. Nobody likes it, it's uncomfortable. And that's exactly why, when it happens, you'll have shame knocking at your door with its toothbrush, saying that she's coming to stay, she's settling in. And that's exactly the moment where you have to close the door, lock the door, and tell her, no, you are not coming in because I rather have vulnerability with me. That's a much nicer and productive guest. Think on the context of entrepreneurship or companies. If everybody is scared of being ashamed, meaning that they are scared of making mistakes that they will regret, nobody will participate. Everybody will stick to the standards and not share anything that would be innovative, revolutionary. They'll just stick to what exists. And that prevents innovation and progress. So that's exactly what we don't want to do. What we can do about it, we can be vulnerable and talk openly about shame so everybody feels comfortable to make mistakes. Now, think also about all the greatest innovations we had in our history. I don't know, planes, cell phones, or even artistic revolutions. People who decided to change the patterns and paint something different, play a different song. They weren't really concerned about shame because if they did, they wouldn't have started the process. They wouldn't have dared to come up with different solutions that everybody felt were crazy. And they were crazy for the standards that were in place at that point of time. So the only way to create something meaningful, new, and also happiness for your life is to leave shame, to welcome vulnerability, and just stick to that much nicer, productive feeling. I know right now you are thinking, yeah, that's great. Vulnerability is incredible, but how do I make it actionable? How do I make it work in life and in the workplace? I'm not going to lie once again, I'm a bad liar. It's hard. It's very hard. But we can try to do our best. And that's working on communication, on being empathetic, especially towards ourselves, because it's quite easy to be empathetic towards others, but towards yourself, that's a challenge. So that's something you have to work on. And then you have to be curious enough so that vulnerability and mistakes have a bigger and nicer weight than shame. So being curious, being open, communicating, and being empathetic towards others and yourself. That's a good solution to becoming more vulnerable and, as a consequence, to create incredible, innovative things or even a better environment everywhere, even within. Now, some people told me on the previous episode that they also wanted fiction book recommendations, and I have them here. Sorry, I didn't plan this well. If you want to explore the topic of shame with a fiction book, I can make two recommendations. One of them is Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. It's a very touching story. I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's about a man who tries to be more intelligent, brighter, and then there are many consequences. It's a science fiction book. It's a classic book when it comes to science fiction, and it's very human still. So you might want to give it a try if you want to explore shame in a different perspective. And if you like science fiction, of course. Then I have a different book that is very well known around the world. It's The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. I hope I'm saying this right. I'm sure I'm not, but I'm being vulnerable. And it's a very, very touching story. So prepare yourself to cry, put your waterproof mascara on because this one, it's a hard read. But it's about two boys who live in Afghanistan and then something happens and shame will arrive strong and stay for a very long time. So that's something if you want to cry, that's a book you want to read. If you don't want to cry, well, maybe don't. Just stick to Brené Brown's books. My challenge for today, and it's not an easy one, is that you are going to think of something that makes you feel ashamed on a personal or professional level, and you are going to share it with someone close to you. I know it's hard, but it's needed. Think with me. The more you give space to vulnerability, to open communication and exploration, the less space shame will have. You are basically torturing shame. Ha 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 ha. This is my malefic laugh, and I feel at it. So I'm Filipa, the founder of the Understories, and I can't wait to have your like, your comment, your criticism, everything. And I really want to answer it. So please just participate in this channel, and I'll see you on the next episode. Just laugh. And when you fail, there's a mosquito here.